Enjoy with your headphones for a better listening experience.
Please watch till the end of the video to have the most scariest part of the story.
What's a horrifying experience you have lived?
276. This might be the reason I'm deathly afraid of cockroaches. When I was 8, my family had gone to an overnight gathering at my great-grandma's house. When everybody had gone to sleep, me and my brother were watching some Camp Lake bottom, I noticed the straightest line of cockroaches coming to me. I hid on the kitchen table for the rest of the night and dreamed of cockroaches crawling all over me and coming into me. I now don't go anywhere near any cockroaches no matter what. 277. I was working in Kenya during the post-election violence in 2007 to 2008. I evacuated myself out of Nairobi City to a colleague's country home 3 hours away from the troubles. As I was driving from my apartment in town, I had to dodge through running street battles between police, military, and protesters. A small minivan in front of my car got petrol bombed, but I managed to get round them and carry on driving. I saw numerous people lay on the street bleeding, dying, dead. I also saw one guy who had his feet, hands, and genitals chopped off and had been set on fire, then left naked in the street. One of the most hair-raising experiences I have ever had. A second horrific experience was when I was in Lebanon. I sat in the evening in the hotel room watching the news, sitting in my boxers. On the news came a report that Israel and Lebanon are going to start fighting again. I had security with me, and an escape plan should we need it, so I felt secure. Then out of nowhere there was a massive explosion that I felt through my chest. It must have been so close. I jumped out of bed, run out of my room, boxers only, almost ran over a group of Muslim women who were all screaming at the sight of me, and started banging on my security room door. He opened the door, and after explaining to him why I was running around the hotel half naked in a fit of fear, he just laughed at me. He took me into his room and showed me the view from his window that looked out of the other side of the building. Someone was having fireworks display right next to the hotel. I felt like a complete idiot. 278. This seems mild compared to everyone else, but 28 years ago we lived in a townhouse, new at the time, across from the Astrodome, for those in Houston. One Wednesday, before Thanksgiving, we had gone Christmas shopping. Sometime that night we heard this incredible banging noise. We just assumed our neighbors were fighting again and slamming their doors. Next morning, I got up, went downstairs, and noticed our front door looked wonky. I didn't think much, and after turning the alarm off, I opened the door, and there were 3 large muddy footprints dead in the center of our door. I slammed the door and got a husband. At that point we both knew we didn't hear the neighbors arguing, but heard someone attempting to break in. When the police arrived, they were shocked no one got in, and we explained that we had a bed frame between the door and the stairs. This was a front door that opened, and the stairs were 3 feet in front of it. The police said that Brace kept us alive and asked why we even had it. My husband explained that 3 years before he was robbed at gunpoint, ironically the Wednesday before Thanksgiving too, and he always blocked his door since then. We were already in the process of building a house and was able to move the next month, but it's scary to know we almost died that night, but at least somebody probably broke his foot that night. 279. I was with my high school art group on a trip to France and Italy. We had some free time, so 2 of my friends and I decided to walk down to the beach in Nice, France. It was about a 15-minute walk from our hotel. Keep in mind we are all female. I was 17, one friend was also 17, and one 15. Both of my friends are quite pretty, and I'm okay I guess. This was in 2007. We went down to the water and had some fun and started to walk back. It was getting dark, and we got a little lost. Unlike my friends, I was hyper-aware of human trafficking and abductions, so I was very alert of what was going on around us. I noticed that there was a man trailing us for a while as we made multiple turns, trying to find our hotel. None of us had a working cell phone, but I still had mine on me. I put the phone to my ear, pretending to talk to my dad to attempt to scare him off. My friends looked at me like I was crazy until they saw the look on my face. We tried to lose him, but he kept following, getting closer and closer. We started to run, he ran after us. After some severe panic, we rounded a corner and finally found a busy street and ran into a Subway, the sandwich place. There were police around and we waited until he went away. We finally found someone who spoke English who gave us directions back to our hotel. Needless to say, we didn't go out unchaperoned for the remainder of the trip. It's also worth noting that in Florence, we also were in a hotel where men were outside our room, turning our doorknob and outside our window whistling and asking us to come outside. Like old men. 3 to 4 drunk guys. Pretty scary. Tourist destinations can definitely be dangerous for young girls. 280. I have sleep paralysis occasionally. It's not something that affects me too terribly. Whenever it happens, I have learned to just wiggle my toes or close my eyes briefly to wake up. Then I am able to sleep the rest of the night without trouble. I never really see creepy people in my room or demons or anything crazy like that. But my dad passed away in March of this year, and it really took a toll on my mental health. He was my best friend and I never got to say goodbye to him when he passed away at the hospital because he hid the fact that his heart was failing from everyone. He also had multiple myeloma, double whammy. Trust me when I say he did not appear sickly or weak in any way, and he kept fighting until the bitter end. I guess he hid all of his health issues because he didn't want to appear weak. Not sure, but he was the strongest person I have ever met, a hard-working man who never asked for anything other than the love from his family. And I will never forget him. I lived with my dad in a 3-bedroom apartment he owned. I had the back room near the kitchen, and he had the front room. The guest room was unused and in the middle of the apartment. One night I was in his room, reminiscing on old times, organizing his room, and sorting through his clothes. It was messy, crying while looking through old photos of us and my siblings as kids. He had a really comfortable bed and eventually I was just so tired from being sad that I fell asleep in his bed. With the lights on and everything. Not sure what time this was, but I awoke with sleep paralysis. The lights were turned off, the room was incredibly dark and I could barely see anything. Some light from the street illuminated the room a little bit. I looked around and saw this figure standing in the corner of the room, clearly the outline of a person. It didn't move, didn't make any noise, but it was there. I tried to ignore it. Wiggling my toes didn't work. Tried closing my eyes and falling back asleep. That didn't work either. I was getting more and more freaked out. I remember seeing the anomaly hovering from corner to corner of my room. Whenever it moved, everything around it seemed to darken into this pitch black void of nothingness. Only thing I can compare it to is that color Vanta black, but in the shape of a person. It looked like it was moving back and forth for hours. Eventually I got so scared that I began to whimper and shake pretty bad. I think I was also crying. This was most definitely not a dream. I know what dreams feel like, and I was more scared in that moment than I have ever been in my entire life. As it began to move closer to me, I started to scream, but it was a muffled scream. It got so close to me that my field of view was just a pitch black void of darkness. Then I felt a hand grab my shoulder. When it touched me, it felt like a lightning bolt had struck me or something, and I screamed so loud that I woke up out of my paralyzed state. I jumped out of bed and turned the lights on. The thing was gone. All of my dad's pictures of us were on the floor. It's possible that I knocked them off the bed. Didn't sleep for the rest of the night and I turned on all the lights in the place. Haven't been able to sleep in his room since I always keep the door locked to his room and only enter if I need to. Most people tell me it was definitely my dad visiting me as a spirit of some sort and just messing with me. Dad, if you're able to somehow read this, I'll see you soon. But please stop messing me with LMAO. 281. Okay, I got a good one even though I know that it was just my imagination. Just hear me out, how scary this was. So, I have this condition from my mom called sleep paralysis. It is where you wake up, but then you are paralyzed for a couple seconds, and you can see things, yes, the scary type. So, I woke up about 3 a.m., yes, no cap. I felt like my stomach was burning like hot type. Then I looked to my doorway, and I saw this hunched back figure that looked like a shadow with white eyes. Apart from it didn't look human also. You was terrified, and I was trying so hard to regain control, and when I finally did, I hid under my bed sheets and was terrified. It how long that I was under there, but it felt like a long time. And I still felt like the aftermath of my stomach burning. So, when I finally was brave enough, I took off the sheets, and so nothing. The time is 3:30 a.m. I was still shocked. Well, I had a story for my first day of 6th grade. 282. I remember when I was really little, during Christmas Eve, I woke up to being literally flipped over. Like I was lifted up and spun, sort of like a kick flip on a skateboard, and dropped back on my bed. All of this happened in seconds. I immediately looked out of my room and swore I saw a cape or something going around the corner, kind of how the Grim Reaper's cape drags behind him. Me being 3 and terrified ran to my parents' room and started yelling about how someone was in the house and how they grabbed me. For the next half hour, my dad searched the whole house. It was a big house, 3 stories in Seattle. My dad found nothing, no doors opened, nothing gone or stolen. Nobody had ever entered the house that night. My parents never personally had paranormal experiences there. But you would also remember hearing the floorboards creak upstairs as if someone were walking, and no one was upstairs. Creepy stuff. 283. I don't know my life, it's kinda tragic. A dog tried to kill me when I was 3/4 years old. My grandmother who looks after me in the house alone for hours, and she did that for more than a year. I was really young, and that was terrible. I has bullied a lot. I had /have problems at home, so I am scared of my own family there that too, and even another problems that I don't want to talk about. So I had a lot of bad experiences, but my mind does me the favor of erasing a lot of things that bring me pain and only leaving behind what I need to learn from it, so I don't, because I can remember, maybe a time when I had a nightmare related to the horror movie Friday the 13th. Don't watch it. When I was in the shoes of the main character, we was in relief when I wake up and realized that it was just a dream and everyone was okay. I had a lot of nightmares growing up, but losing the ones I love, it's that scares me the most, so that was it. 284. When I was young, from about 10 to 14 years old, I constantly experienced what I have come to accept as extremely vivid hallucinations. Shortly after an aunt that I had viewed as a second mother passed, I had been at my grandparents' house, and still mourning her. It was late at night, and being a religious child, I had prayed to see her, by any means possible. That I had been willing to sell my soul, if that is what it took. Of course, that isn't what happened. Some hours after that, I had been chatting with friends online when I looked over the end of the couch into the dark of the hallway. Something was there. It had been a black silhouette, and it had red eyes. I blinked, and it was still there. I looked away multiple times, and it was still there. I started crying and started messaging my friends since they were a bit older than I was afraid. It went away. It appeared 2 more times that night, but I excused it as being afraid and tired. A couple of weeks later, after I had returned home, I woke up in the middle of the night because something fell off. For setting's sake, my bedroom was on the 2nd floor. With the door open, it directly faced the staircase, and if I sat up enough in bed, I could see it. This is why I can no longer sleep in the dark without a TV on and the door closed. I also believe that this is why I will wake up without fail if I'm in a silent room. White noise does not prevent this. I looked over the stairs, and I saw a little girl. I would age her around 9 to 11. She had brown hair with black streaks running through it, her eyes were a very bright shade of brown, and her skin had been smooth like porcelain. Gorgeous, truly. Still terrifying. She was silent and just watched me until I guess she noticed I had been watching her. Then she ran down the stairs. I was too scared to move, and all I could manage was silent sobbing after she had left. This persisted for years, with her appearing around every other week to every 2 weeks. She was sitting on the stairs and stared at me through the banister until she eventually ran away. I thought I was insane, which is a horrifying acceptance when you're only 10-11 years old. I didn't tell anyone about this for about a year and a half. Also, when I attempted to discuss this with anyone, she would appear more frequently before regulating again. She only appeared at night, so I slept during the day. This had been disastrous for my mental health and my grades. I also became increasingly depressed during this time for other reasons. I didn't tell anyone about this until I had a friend spend the night at my house who claimed to have seen a white figure on the stairs. We had been left alone during the day while my mother ran errands, and I had been on the floor, and she had been sitting on my bed. She asked me who else had been home besides us. I assured her that we were alone. Once she mentioned seeing a girl on the stairs, I begged her to describe the girl. She described exactly what I had seen. I started sobbing as I told her everything, dealing with the consequences later. Once my friend had left for the night, the girl appeared, but she had been livid that I spoke about her. Usually, she would appear with a curious, innocent expression, but she had glared that night. I was mortified. I expressed this to my mom, but she just said I had an extremely active imagination and excused it. This would continue off and on until we eventually moved out of that house a couple of years later. There were several specific instances of me seeing this girl, but just seeing her became so common that I accepted it and just thought that she would eventually kill me and decided not to. 285. I'm just gonna copy and paste this one I wrote a while back. This is a huge mystery I think about every night. I've had this conversation with almost everyone I'm close to, but no one has ever been able to solve it, so if you think you know what's going on, please tell me. Every year, me and the lads have a camping trip. It's kind of a tradition at this point that everyone always gets hyped about, and it's been running for about 10 years. Over the years people have come and gone, but the only people that have remained in every single one is me and my best mate, saying the campsite is called Old Berry Hill, and as a young lad it was perfect. There was a huge forest with rope swings, slopes, dens, a weird tree with a hole in it, and an ancient Celtic fortress. Although the camping trip has always been fun, it's always been fairly uneventful. We've had a few run-ins with other groups, but nothing has ever happened that could turn us away permanently. Except for the very first night of the very first camping trip. The incident is slipping to the back of my mind as I get older, and I can't remember the details as vividly. But what I can remember is the feeling of uneasiness. The last thing to note is that I don't, and never have believed in ghosts. We were up late as usual, 2 a.m. probably, I can't say for sure. There were 3 rooms, my room with Sam and Luca. Room 2 with Enrico and Oliver, and another room with my dad in it. Each room has a zip door that would be impossible to open without making noise. All doors, including the front door, were zipped shut when it happened. Around this time, we were laughing and having a fun time. When all of a sudden, a massive shadow of a 7-foot bloke engulfed the ceiling. Not like a man standing on the ground, it looked like the thing was hovering over the tent. It made no sound. As you can imagine, we were all scared as hell. And all 6 of us remember that clear as day, so we know it happened. I remember gluing my back to the ground so that if it were to burst through the ceiling, it couldn't grab me. But it just stayed there completely still until it left. As you can imagine, we breathed a massive sigh of relief that we weren't living in some ungodly horror film. But, and this is the bit that really gets to me, slowly, almost as if to make as much noise as possible, we all heard the front door zip slowly open. Before you say it was obviously one of the other rooms, we didn't hear any of the other doors open beforehand, so that is impossible. We heard the boxes of cutlery, and the grill move about outside, and then the zip closed again. But this time really quickly. The rest of the night brought a whole new meaning to the word scared. I remember trembling there holding my wee penknife, waiting for that something to tear through the wall and drag me to Kingdom Come. But it never did. It wasn't an animal. Which, believe me, I was hoping. But there, as clear as anything, was a line of bare footprints going from the door, around the room and back again. Gives me shivers just thinking about it.
Thanks for watching. Please comment, like, share and subscribe. The Internet Surfer on YouTube for more horror and scary stories.